Thanks again for joining, everybody. This is Danny Zavala, your host on the Rec Center podcast. We have Dr. Joan Qazi, aka Dr. Q, visiting from Wenatchee Valley College. She's a professor there. She's also director of the WVC Sustainability Committee, board member for Sustainable Wenatchee, and also a board member for Washington State Farmers Market Association. And this isn't the first time she's been on the show. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties the first time around, and her video got lost in the cloud. So here we have Dr. Q for the second time around, and this interview is going to be better. I'm so happy to bring her on, and we're going to be covering sustainability and wellness, some huge, important key factors in our community, and she is a leader within it. Dr. Q, I want to jump right into it. You have such a tenacity to serve others in our community through sustainability and wellness. How did you get started, and what motivated you to keep pushing every day?
Well, thank you so much for having me back on, Danny. It's really an honor to be here. And I love being able to connect sustainability to these Rec Center podcasts, because what you're doing at the Rec Center is really connected to sustainability with some of those equipment that you have that feeds back into the grid, and many of the other things that you're trying to do with the hydration station, reduce the use of plastic. And so I'm really excited to be part of this podcast again, and just make those connections with sustainability and health and wellness. Because a lot of people think that sustainability is only about the environmental impact, but sustainability has three main aspects. One is environmental impact, right? And trying to be good stewards of our natural resources, clean air, clean water. Mm-hmm. Another is social justice and health and wellness. So if you see the Sustainable Development Goals, you'll see that those are really high up there, along with economic equity. So making sure that people have a fair wage, a living wage, and that everybody is treated fairly. So I think this works really well, and especially now, this is probably a better time to do this podcast because October is Campus Sustainability Month. I'd love sustainability to be all year. It is for me, but I love that we can highlight it, especially in October. So back to your question, what got me motivated? I did, my doctoral degree was on women's work in North Central Washington's apple industry. And when I started to explore agriculture more, I realized that I was very interested in sustainable practices in agriculture. And I was fortunate enough to kind of link up with a number of different people who were interested in supporting our local food system. We are so blessed here in North Central Washington that we have the ability to grow a diversity of different fruits and vegetables, and we have access to those wonderful, nutritious foods fairly regularly. We have some, really wonderful small farmers who also sell at the farmers market, who I've come to know very well over the years. And so I got involved with a group that I helped lead called EAT, E-A-T, Education and Agriculture Together. And that was a 501c4. So we didn't want to have to do fundraising, but we wanted it to be a nonprofit. And we didn't want it to be political. We just wanted to support our local farmers and find new markets for them. So we worked with the jail at one time. We worked with the schools. We worked with various institutions, restaurants. We contacted restaurants. We put together networking events, which we called speed dating between farmers and these buyers, local buyers, so that farmers could tell the buyers what they had. That was up at Sleeping Lady, and we did some other networking events like that. We helped to support the beginning of the school gardens in the schools. So some of you may know about the school gardens that are in the Wenatchee schools. Some of them now have sort of faded away a little bit because this was in the 1990s and early 2000s. But the one at John Newbery, I was particularly proud of because my kids went there. And that's another motivation for sustainability for me, is thinking about my kids' future and also just thinking about my students' futures, right? I do a lot of this because I'm motivated by the energy of my students, by the concerns of my students, and I want them to have the benefits that we had as well. So that garden down at John Newbery, there were a lot of kids who had never grown vegetables before. Originally, they were just going to make it kind of a landscaping flower garden, but I convinced the PTA that we should do an edible schoolyard, that's what they're called, and plant, you know, carrots and peas and different things so kids could actually see how their food is grown and also taste it like fresh from the garden and be involved with the whole process. And I think it allowed a lot of different kids to shine. And we actually had a visit from Olympia, the people in Olympia. We had Trudy Inslee, the governor's wife, who came out, and we did a big kind of event there talking about the importance of school gardens and helping kids understand where their food comes from. So I hope that answered the question. Yeah, sustainability is just part of who I am.
And for those that are just tuning in, that's the reason why we have Dr. Q on this show. She knows sustainability inside and out. She's been part of these organizations here in our valley for quite some time. Not only that, she also has an entrepreneurial spirit to create and drive change, connecting farmers to restaurants. So that is truly amazing, and I applaud you for that. That's really cool, Dr. Q. And for those that are looking to become more sustainable, you know, that's always on their mind, right? Individuals, either it's eliminating single-use plastics or eating more local produce.
Right.
Coming from you, a sustainability expert, how can individuals become more sustainable, and what are a few tips?
You know, I think overall, you just have to start shifting your worldview to see that you are part of the natural world rather than apart from the natural world.
Mm-hmm.
We're so lucky here once again because we have these beautiful landscapes. We have the ability to recreate in them.
Mm-hmm.
So getting out and really sensing nature in all its forms is a really important first step, and just kind of trying to connect with the power of nature. But I think, you know, in terms of daily things that we can do, you know, we can try to drive less unless we are driving electric vehicles that are plugged into hydropower.
Mm-hmm.
Can, as you said, reduce our single-use plastic. Try to reuse your bags when you go to the store. Nowadays, because we are in COVID-19, you know, you're told you can't, the cashiers can't take your bags, but you can just have them pack it back into the grocery cart, and then you can take it to your car, and then you can load it into your own bags in the car. You can also do your own bagging, which is what I tend to do, or go through the self-service. So there are ways to do that as well. The big one for me that I'm working on currently is reducing food waste.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, I'm kind of a foodie, I suppose. I like to eat well. I like to feature the wonderful seasonal bounty that we are privileged to have here. I like to support my local farmers. But at the same time, I realize how much work goes into producing that food, right? Yeah. You know, farmers do all of that work. The land, they take care of the land so that it can produce well. They use water, and we live in a very dry climate here, so water is a super important resource. And then there's the energy of bringing it to us, however that happens. If you buy it from the grocery store, it could be on average 1,400 miles from, you know, where your plate to where it was produced. So I think that wasted food is so much more than just what we throw in the trash. It's wasting all those other resources that go into producing that food. And 40% of all food that is produced is wasted. 40%. Wow.
And you know, I knew the percentage was high. I didn't know it was 40%, and that's astronomical. I mean, that's huge. That's something that my wife and I are trying to improve on ourselves, is just reducing our food waste, which means when we have a full fridge, not to go out and eat the food that we already have and go through it. If that means eating leftovers 2 or 3 times in a row, hey, we're working on it. That's one thing that we're trying to shift our mind and saying, hey, if we're going to make this delicious meal and we're going to put the effort into creating it, let's utilize it. Let's use that food. Let's not let it go to the waste. And I was just at the grocery store the other day, and it's amazing how many single-use plastics are for those ready meals, right? You go and they already have the pre-chopped fruits and veggies, which you're doing something healthy for yourself, but at the same time, it's a single use. And I started thinking about this idea. It's like there wouldn't be any waste if we just cooked all of our own food, or it'd be very, very minimal waste as far as packaging goes. So that's one thing that my wife and I are trying to do is cook more. Not use canned beans, like make your own beans.
Yeah, that's really healthy. Yeah, that's really healthy. And it helps your own nutrition too when you go with the whole foods like that, but it also helps the planet.
Definitely.
So that is a great way to work on sustainability.
Yeah. And having you on the show is motivating me just a little more. So I want to get right into it too. For those out there that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about your story and what it was like, where you were born and raised, what it was like when you were a child, and what ultimately pushed you to drive change within sustainability within your communities?
Sure. I was actually born in California, but my parents moved up to Seattle when I was 5. So I basically grew up in the Seattle area. I was really lucky to get a chance to travel a lot. My dad was a university professor of medicine, so I spent my 3rd grade year outside of Oxford University, where he was on sabbatical. And then at that time, we traveled in Europe. I realized how much I love languages and how much I love the world, how much I love traveling. And so, I had the chance to really get curious about people who live in different places. And I think that curiosity has stayed with me forever, because I'm very interested in cultural diversity, which is also related to sustainability.
Totally.
So it's a perfect fit for me to be the geography professor. You might see the map behind me here. I just love learning more about people in different places and the physical environments that they live in, and the cultural traditions that they have, or, the food traditions, all those sorts of things. So that was a big part of it. I also spent quite a bit of time in England on my uncle's farm. When we were growing up, we would go over sometimes for summers there. And that was a case where we were definitely picking all our own fruits and vegetables, that we would have, and my aunt would cook them in this big old farmhouse, and we would go out and help round up the sheep. And so that was a chance for me to make that connection with nature that was so helpful. And then just growing up in the Seattle area, we used to hike all the time. We'd go to the Olympic rainforest. We would go into the Cascades. Every weekend it was hiking. So I just feel I was really fortunate to have a childhood where I had a lot of chances to connect with nature.
Yeah, and we are so blessed to reside here in North Central Washington, or the Northwest, just because there's so much natural beauty around us. It kind of comes with the territory. We got to preserve what we have.
Yeah.
Just because it is so beautiful. You have from glaciers to rainforests to, high deserts, an abundance of clean drinking water in certain areas. So it is really beautiful, and I agree with you on that. And so we've talked about it before in the pre-interview, and I really like this about you. You have this personal mantra that really just follows your passion within sustainability and wellness. Can you fill us in on what that is?
Yeah, I guess my personal mantra is the power of nature and the kindness of humans. And if I'm feeling down or somehow not connected. And, this has been a difficult year, 2020. So,
oh, totally.
If I can get outside and connect with the power of nature, if I can be reminded of the kindness of humans. If we go back to thinking about food waste, I just wanted to bring up another really great nonprofit that we have in our community called Community Harvest. And that's out of Leavenworth with UV Mend. And what they do is they connect with farmers or backyard gardeners who have excess produce, maybe apples, cherries, kale, it could be anything, blueberries. And then they recruit volunteers who will go out to those fields or orchards and pick that. And then those fresh fruits and vegetables go to the food bank, because, you know, food banks often get non-perishable items, cans and boxed goods, but they don't always get the fresh produce. And so this is a really great way to supplement the health of those people who rely or sometimes have to rely on that food security through the food bank. So I've been really lucky to be volunteering for that organization, which has such great goals of feeding the hungry as well as not wasting food that otherwise would have not been able to be harvested for one reason or another.
Yeah, what an awesome organization. And that kind of leads me to my next question. Are there any other organizations or groups that you highly recommend individuals to get involved with?
Certainly. You and I are both on the board of Sustainable Wenatchee, which is an excellent organization that people can connect with through Facebook, through the website Sustainable Wenatchee. And, you know, the focus of Sustainable Wenatchee is really there's a big focus on reducing waste. So that's something that we can each do as individuals. But then there's also a lot of education and awareness about other topics as well. There is a climate group in town, Climate Conversations, North Central Washington, because my other big passion is trying to address climate change and trying to help people understand the science behind climate change. So I am a climate reality leader, which means that I make myself available to do talks about climate science and the impacts of climate change in our region. And, you know, shopping at the farmer's market is excellent. We have so many wonderful nonprofits, CHELAN Douglas Land Trust, Cascadia Conservation District, and they are also many of our nonprofit partners at the college as well. So when we do our Earth Day fairs at the college, you're part of the sustainability committee is to organize those sorts of events. We partner with these wonderful nonprofits and we help our community on campus learn more about how they can get involved, the things that are being done. We are now also a Tree Campus USA, so we are taking care of our trees on campus, understanding the role that they play in terms of sequestering carbon, giving us the beautiful aesthetic of trees in the different seasons, helping with our mental health and all the benefits that we get from that.
Wow. And that's an entrepreneurial spirit that I was talking to everyone about, is that you got your hands in so many different pots. And you are just hard at work, you know, making our community just a better place. So thanks again for all the work that you do, Dr. Q. And if individuals want to get in contact with you, how do they get in contact with you? But before we go there, I do have a quick story that I want everybody to know. So my wife, Liz, she actually took your class at WVC, I want to say in 2010 or 2011. And this is before I even knew you, Dr. Q. And she goes, oh, I took this sustainability class at WVC and it was by far my favorite class. And she says, it's motivated me to look at the world through a different lens and just be more sustainable, be more conscious. And, you know, kind of going full circle is now I'm on the sustainability board with you. And that class was with you, Dr. Q. And she said that you were the best professor. So, you know, fast forwarding 10 years in the future, here we are on the Rec Center podcast. Sponsored by Wenatchee Valley College, talking about sustainability. So you've changed not only her life, you've changed not only her life, and then also she's changed my life through that network. So not only are you making a direct impact on those individuals, but they're influencing others, which is what a true teacher, mentor, coach does. So
you are so kind, and so is Liz. I really appreciate that. And I love that sort of closing the loop,
yeah.
or when you throw a pebble in and it has all of those ripples, right? That's what we really want to see.
It's the power of nature and the kindness of human, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Awesome. Well, if people want to get in contact with you, Dr. Q, how do they do that?
So probably the college email is the easiest.
Okay.
QA, there's no U after the Q, jqazi@wvc.edu.
Awesome. Well, we're going to go ahead and put that down below, and we are for sure going to make this live, and this is going to be available to the Wenatchee Valley community. So thanks again for jumping on, and we'll chat soon, Dr. Q.
Thanks, Danny. Have a great day.